Hey, it's Mega, aka the Art Messiah, here to save you from your art sins. Welcome back to another art tutorial. Today we're going to be talking about how to draw the mouth and the lips, of course. Now this facial feature can go wrong really quickly, and there's a lot of mistakes people make when it comes to drawing the mouth. So we're going to run through the common mistakes, what not to do, and then I'll show you what you should do instead. So go ahead, grab your piece of paper, grab your pencil, and we're gonna go ahead and get started. Before we do, I do want to just say thanks to everyone that's come and subscribed and liked the videos. We make tutorials like this often where we're basically just giving away some advice for comic creators and some drawing tutorials for people that are just interested in drawing. So with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into today's videos. So the first thing that I wanted to do and run through was what are some of the common mistakes that people are making when they are drawing the mouth. So mistake number one that I see, and that's a no-no, and this comes from anime, and that's with drawing the mouth in the side view, but they draw the mouth as if it was from the front view or the 3/4 view. Now, don't get me wrong, if you want to make that your style later on, feel free to do so, but I'm going to break down why this is incorrect. Sin number 2, and that is pretty much not drawing the softness and subtlety of the lips, but actually just outlining it and making it really cartoonish. So, no good. And last but not least, there's actually still more sins, but the third sin that I have that I want to go over is just drawing the mouth oversimplified and drawing it as a straight line across. It is not a straight line, and I'm going to explain why and show you how you can improve upon this. Okay, so since we have some of the basic mistakes that people are making, let's go ahead and start to cover what the mouth actually looks like in real life and how we can break that down and start to simplify it and start to cartoonify it while still having a good foundation and having a good anatomy. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is just drop the opacity of this so we can draw over it. And please excuse the lag for my computer. Basically what happens when I start recording like this, my computer kind of goes into overdrive, and it runs a little bit slower, but we're going to try to get through today's tutorial before Photoshop pretty much crashes on me. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is make some quick notes about the top lip versus the bottom lip. And I like to make the bottom lip usually slightly bigger, but it depends on the person, so I just want to go ahead and quickly point out that proportion. But in this case, pretty much the top lip and the bottom lip are the same. But what I want you to pay attention to right off the bat is that this line right here is not a straight line. It's actually a curved line. Sorry about that, getting a phone call. This is actually a curved line, okay? So again, that goes back to sin number 1. People won't draw that. We'll draw it simply as a straight line. Now, sometimes it can be kind of seen as a straight line, but not all the time. So now that we have that center line in, I want to first focus on this top lip. And this top lip can be broken down into really 3 different kinds of planes. So this first plane is right here in the center, and it creates this kind of U shape, and it kind of comes down and tucks in here. Now if you look at a lot of different lips, there will be that section right in the center of the lip, and it kind of protrudes outward more than the rest of the lip. And what happens is at the edge of that U, you kind of have these wings that curve down right into the center line, just like this. Okay. So on the top we have 1 plane, 2 plane, and 3 planes. Now on the bottom we can break it up into 3 planes as well, but I actually like to break it up into 2 planes, and this is going to be more clear when I draw the 3/4 view for the mouth. So one of the plane is this half of the lip, and then the second plane is the other side of the lip. Okay. So this is the basic anatomy, so to speak, of the lip, the different planes of the lip. And I really encourage you guys to draw over a photo like this just to get a sense of the proportions and the planes. Okay, so now that we kind of have the proportions and we have the planes, we are going to now draw this mouth in a front view, a 3/4 view, and a side view. So let me go ahead and set up my layers for that. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and label this. So we're gonna do our front view, front. We're gonna do our 3/4 and our side view. And I'm going to be drawing this mouth closed first, right, to just give you guys an understanding of how the lips work. And then we're going to draw this mouth open so you guys can kind of understand the anatomy of the inside and what happens as we rotate the mouth all the way into the side view. And drawing these 3 views are the most important views to understand how to draw the mouth. And then you can just kind of draw in between, you know, depending on the angle of the face of the character that you're drawing. Okay, so the front view we kind of already saw for the most part how it looks. So let's go ahead and start off with that. I like to start off with a center line, and this is a front view. I am going to draw it straight for right now, but if you're looking kind of from upwards position looking down, then this line is going to curve upwards, or vice versa. If you're looking from beneath, it's going to kind of curve down a little bit. Now in this case, I'm going to have a slight curve down, and you can do a slight curve up, it doesn't really matter. But in my front view, it's going to be a slight curve down. Okay, let me go ahead and get my eraser tool set up correctly. Okay, there we go. So that way it's a soft brush. Okay. After I do that, I draw a basic shape for the top lip. That's gonna look like this, and a basic shape for the bottom lip. Okay, and this is just to get me started. A lot of mistakes and sins that I see is people that stop like this, and they just draw these curves going upwards and these curves going downwards. Now in a cartoon style, you know, you might see this in Cartoon Network or some cartoon show. You know, you can get away with it, but if you want a more realistic lips, we have to break this down more into the planes that we're talking about. Okay, so I'm going to draw my vertical center line, and I'm going to create that U shape that we observed in the picture, right? So we're going to draw on our U shape just like this. Okay, and then those wings come down and follow that line that you've already kind of drawn. Okay, so that's how you do the top part of the lip. The second part we're going to move into is this center line, and how this center line actually looks like. So let me go ahead and turn on that photo reference again for a minute. I want you guys to notice where the lines are darkest. The lines are darkest when it's coming to the edge, right? And then it kind of gets really light right here, it gets really light, and then it gets really dark in the center. Okay, so the reason that this is happening is that the lips are touching, right? But basically where you're getting the kind of deepest fold and the deepest crevice is right here on the side of the mouth, and it's kind of like a dimple. It's like a lip dimple. So you really want to make the line heavier on the edges and right here in the center. And that is an extremely important tip to make these lips look more soft and more natural, and not just like it's a cartoon drawing. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and just delete what we drew over that, and we're gonna add this into the drawing that we were working on. So on the edges of the mouth, I like to make these little, they're kind of like I think of them as like little periods. They're just little dots, they're little dimples at the edge of the mouth, and I like to draw those in. At the center of the mouth, I like to draw it in darker as well, and what I typically like to do is I like to follow that U shape just a little bit, okay? And I'm going to keep that pretty light on the sides, and then I'm going to draw the lip coming down. And again, the same thing on this side. I'm going to draw this lip coming down, and I'm going to darken up that, just like that. Okay. Now let's move on to the bottom lip. And again, the bottom lip can be broken up into those two planes, so I'm going to just, very roughly sketch those. And what I want you to notice is that it doesn't keep curving down like that. Between these two planes, it kind of just gets flat, right? So you can draw it flat across right here, and then you can draw it curving up into those dimples that you drew. Okay, and the reason that those dimples are there, remember, is because of, I think it's called like occlusion in lighting. It's basically where the light cannot hit, and so that's why it's darker there in those dimples, because the light is trying to shine, but guess what? It's hitting the other part of like the mouth and lips, and it can't enter into those deep crevices, and so that's why you want to make those areas darker, and it's going to make your mouth and lips look more realistic. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and just take my eraser and make these lines a little bit lighter, and then also pretty much just erase some of these construction lines. Okay, but I'll keep some of it so you guys can remember that it's there. Now, as we move on to this next view, this 3/4 view, there's something really important that I need to mention right now, because this is where a lot of art sins come into play again when it comes to drawing the mouth. And that is, we need to understand the curvature of the skull and actually where these lips sit and where this mouth is. So, if we look at the skull, right, we can see these teeth. Hold on. We can see these teeth right here, okay? And these teeth are coming from this section in the skull, and look how this section is rounded like this, okay? So we need to understand that this face, you can imagine almost like a piece of paper kind of just wrapping around right here and creating that curvature. It's not flat. Your face isn't flat at the front of your face, okay? So when the lips are being wrapped around this curved feature, okay, there's going to be a lot of foreshortening happening here, and this is going to be really important in the 3/4 view. So for example, the lips are coming down to the edge of the mouth, whatever, just like this, and notice that the center line is right here, okay? So the lips are actually curving around, right, the teeth, and it's curving around the skull. And so we get this foreshortening happening here, where this side becomes much longer than this side. And so all the stuff on this side becomes compressed, okay? So keep that in mind. And I'm just gonna draw a little thing off to the side, that in the 3/4 view, okay, we're kind of getting some curvature of the skull and of the teeth. So we need to keep this wrapping around idea in mind as we draw this 3/4 view, okay? So let's go ahead and take off that skull for now and cut this, and go ahead and bring back our black ink for black pencil. And let's talk about drawing this 3/4 view. So the first thing that I want to do is that I want to draw this center line just like I did before. And now I want to draw the vertical center line. And remember that proportion, that the vertical center line is no longer going to be here at the center. We're at 3/4, so we're gonna put this center line actually like right around here. And we also want to show the curvature of this mouth, okay, wrapping around the face. And so now we have our horizontal and our vertical center line. And from there we can start adding those basic shapes that I was saying from the first mouth that we drew, okay? But this isn't supposed to be the final lines. These are just our construction lines to give us an idea of how this mouth is going to look, okay? So now we pretty much have this construction, and I guess it kind of looks like a sideways raindrop, so you can think of the shape kind of like that. But now we need to break down that anatomy again. So we draw on this U shape, okay, for the top. We draw on the wings going down, and we draw on the wings on this side going down. And again, keep in mind the compression, the fact that this side is now much shorter than this side, so keep that in mind when you're in 3/4 view, and you're going to make it look like it has a lot more volume. Okay, so for the anatomy for the bottom is again easy. It's just broken up into those two planes, okay? So we're going to draw that. I decided to make this bottom lip just a little bit bigger, okay? So now we got all our construction in place. Now we can kind of come through and render a little bit more, and this time I'm just going to lighten the line. So go ahead and take your eraser, or if you're in some kind of digital software, just go ahead and lighten those lines a little bit, and we're going to work on our final render, okay? Okay, so first thing I like to do is I like to go in and darken in this dimple, okay? This is where the light cannot hit, and I do the same thing for in the center, and then for this outside edge, okay? So that's pretty good. And let's go ahead and then just lightly go over the top lines. They don't need to be super well defined. Some people make that mistake. The lines that really need to be defined and will have the shadow is the center line. So that's where you want to add the most darkness. Now I want to show something interesting on this bottom lip, that the form that we realized breaking this bottom lip into those two planes is that this first plane, now that it's in 3/4, it's actually going to overlap that second plane sometime. And in some people's lips, you can really see that split in that division between the two halves. And some people it's more subtle, so don't draw that split and division too dark, but sometimes you can kind of hint at that, and that can look pretty good and make the mouth look pretty realistic, okay? Now, I'm not getting into shading too much. I'm really just showing you guys the correct line work for how to draw the mouth, but if the light were to come from the top, then you would get shading on this upper lip, okay, and then shading beneath this lower lip, because that's where the light cannot hit. And I'm going to demonstrate that a little bit better in this side view. Okay, now in this side view, we are going to draw again our center line. I'm gonna draw this one curving down again, because I'm just drawing different mouths, right? And the vertical center line is now perfectly at the edge, okay? So it does not really intersect the mouth anymore. And at this point, we're not going to see half of the ellipse. We're only going to see one half of it, okay? And basically, so what you get is you still get that U shape, but you only get half of that U, right? You get half of that U shape, and then you get this wing coming down here, and this lip actually comes inward. So this top lip is going to assume a shape something akin to this, okay? And I like to put my dimple shape still in there, okay? And then this bottom lip juts back out, curves back in, and back up to that dimple. Okay, so I'm just gonna modify this a little bit. And it creates this little shelf, and this comes down, and this eventually comes to the chin, and this is going to end up looking something like this and leading up into the nose. So the side view is pretty simple. It kind of looks like a sideways heart, but what I want to show and demonstrate with this side view is that the angle of this upper lip, and the fact of the matter is that it angles back inwards here, and so that's why when the light is shining down, then these light rays, right, that are shining down, they don't hit here, they don't hit on the underneath side, and so you can really see it in the side view. So just observe that. Hopefully that kind of makes sense and it just kind of clicks right away, but you're really just understanding the plane changes and the plane angles, but not in a complicated way. Just seeing, okay, is it tilted inwards or outwards? Is the light going to be able to reach that area? Okay, so I can sense this tutorial is going to be a little bit longer than the nose tutorial because I also want to draw the open mouth as well. But I'm going to go ahead and pause right here for a second, and I'll come back later for the second half.